Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. I'm Nick.
And I'm Emily. Today's episode is called, How Learning English Helped Me Find My Voice, and it's a personal one. Because we're not just talking about learning vocabulary or grammar. We're talking about identity, expression, courage.
Right. For so many of us, learning English isn't just about passing an exam or getting a promotion. It's about finally being able to say what's on your mind. To express feelings you never had words for before. And for some, it's even about discovering who they truly are.
Yeah, and we've heard from so many listeners who've said, English gave me the words to speak up. Maybe in their native language, they were too shy, or they were told to stay quiet. But in English, they felt freer, lighter, more themselves.
That's such an interesting phenomenon. It's like learning a new language gives you permission to rewrite the script of your life. You're not bound by the labels or limitations you grew up with. You can reinvent yourself, even if it starts with just one sentence.
Exactly. And sometimes it's not even about big speeches. It could be something as simple as saying no when you never did before. Or expressing love. Or standing up for yourself in a classroom, a meeting, or a relationship.
Learning English becomes this unexpected doorway to emotional freedom. And part of that journey is internal, battling fear, perfectionism, self-doubt. Because you're not just learning how to say things. You're learning how to believe that what you say matters.
We want to explore that idea today. How the process of learning English helps you break through silence, both outside and inside. How it becomes a mirror and a microphone.
So whether you're just starting your English journey, or you've been learning for years, this episode is for anyone who's ever struggled to be heard, and is finally ready to find their voice.
One powerful thing I've noticed from talking with learners around the world is that when they speak English, they sometimes feel less pressure to be perfect. Isn't that strange? It's like, in their native language, they're expected to sound mature, polished, like they have it all together. But in English, they're allowed to stumble a little. And that freedom can actually be incredibly healing.
Yes, I've heard that too. In English, people feel like they're allowed to be beginners again. And with that comes a kind of innocence. You're not carrying all the cultural expectations you grew up with. You're just you. Raw. Honest. And that makes room for growth, not just in the language, but emotionally too.
Some even say, I cry easier in English, or I can talk about my trauma more freely in English. That's not a small thing. That's huge. Because it shows that language isn't just a tool, it's a space. A container where emotions can finally come out in a way they couldn't before.
Yeah, and even though it's scary, it's also incredibly brave. To speak from your heart in a second language? That's next-level courage. Especially when you're afraid of judgment, afraid of making mistakes, afraid of not being understood, but you speak anyway.
And the more you do it, the stronger your voice becomes. Not just in English, but in life. You start to realize, hey, I can do hard things. You trust yourself more. You stop waiting for the perfect moment, or the perfect sentence, and just speak your truth, mistakes and all.
It's a journey of finding confidence through effort, not perfection. You gain resilience every time you raise your hand in class, answer a question at work, or even post something online in English. These little acts of expression, they build a new version of you.
And it's not always loud. Sometimes, finding your voice means writing your thoughts in a journal. Or quietly understanding a song lyric that hits deep. Or reading a book and realizing, this author gets me. That quiet recognition, it's still your voice waking up.
So even if no one else notices it right away, you do. You feel it inside. And that changes how you walk through the world. You're no longer just a passive listener in life. You start becoming an active participant in conversations, in relationships, in your own narrative.
Honestly, One of the most touching messages we've received was from a listener who said, "Before English, I didn't think my thoughts mattered. Now I write poetry in English. I speak up in meetings. I'm no longer invisible." That's not about language. That's about liberation.
Wow. That gives me goosebumps. And it's a reminder that English isn't just grammar drills and vocabulary lists. For some people, it's the first time they're giving themselves permission to speak, really speak, and be heard.
Exactly. And even when the grammar isn't perfect, or the words don't come out smoothly, that doesn't take away from the honesty of what you're expressing. In fact, sometimes the imperfections make it even more real, more human. You're not reading a script. You're sharing something that matters to you.
And people connect with that. They don't connect with flawless sentences, they connect with feelings. With vulnerability. With the courage to say, "This is me, and this is what I think, even if I don't say it perfectly." That kind of communication is magnetic.
And let's be real, learning any language is hard. But when you start using it to tell your story, something shifts. You're no longer just memorizing verbs or practicing pronunciation. You're reclaiming your narrative. You're using English as a bridge to healing, to connection, and to your own power.
Yes. And even something as simple as saying, "I'm sad," or "I need help," in English can be an act of emotional release, especially for people who weren't taught to express those things in their native language. Sometimes English becomes that safe place where they finally feel heard, even if it's just by themselves.
I love that. Because self-expression doesn't always mean speaking to others. Sometimes, it's just being honest in your own mind. And for many, that honesty starts when they switch languages. It's almost like a fresh start. A blank canvas. And on that canvas, you're free to draw new versions of yourself.
That's so true. And you begin to build trust, not just with the language, but with yourself. Like, I can say what I feel. I can share what I think. I'm not broken just because I don't know every word. That trust is the foundation of both communication and confidence.
And we need to talk more about that. How English learning isn't just about jobs or travel. For so many people, it's emotional. Deeply emotional. It's about visibility, dignity, self-worth. It's about proving to yourself that your voice matters, even if the world hasn't always made you feel that way.
That's why I get so passionate about language education. Because when someone says, "English helped me find my voice," I know they're not just talking about speaking fluently. They're talking about becoming visible, about finally stepping into the light after feeling unseen for so long.
And for anyone listening who feels like their English isn't good enough yet, please know this: your voice is already powerful. Your message matters. And your journey, no matter how slow it feels, is building something beautiful inside of you.
Absolutely. Keep using your voice. Keep writing, journaling, talking, even if it's just to yourself. Because every word you speak, every sentence you form, is a step toward healing, self-discovery, and empowerment.
And I think one of the most beautiful things is how learning English helps you discover parts of yourself you didn't even know were there. Like, maybe you write something in your English journal that you've never said out loud, not even in your own language, and suddenly, you realize, wow, I actually feel this. This is me.
Yeah, and that discovery, it's powerful. Sometimes when people switch languages, they also unlock a new side of themselves. Maybe they become braver in English, more honest, or even more creative. That's not something we talk about enough. Language isn't just a tool, it shapes identity. It can heal identity.
And especially for people who've experienced trauma, shame, or even just years of silence, learning to speak again, whether it's to a friend, a teacher, or a page in a notebook, can feel like breathing for the first time after holding it in for too long. It's that deep.
Exactly. And it's not about fluency. It's not about sounding like a native speaker. It's about reconnecting with who you are. Releasing what's been bottled up. Saying, I matter, and I deserve to be heard, even if you have to say it slowly, with mistakes, and maybe with a dictionary open next to you.
I know people who started English journaling just to practice writing, but then they started pouring their heart out. They began reflecting on things they never processed before. Writing about fears, dreams, regrets. And slowly, they started healing. One word at a time.
And the beautiful part is, nobody needs to read it. It's for you. There's no pressure. No grades. No fear of judgment. It's just your safe space. A space where you can explore your emotions and improve your English at the same time. No rush. No performance.
That's why I recommend it to so many learners. Even if you're shy to speak, even if you don't like grammar, just start by writing one sentence a day. Today, I feel tired. I'm proud of myself. I miss my family. It doesn't need to be fancy. It just needs to be true.
And over time, that honesty becomes strength. It's not just language learning anymore, it's self-respect. It's building a quiet, personal foundation that supports everything else in your life, both mentally and emotionally. It's not just about what you're saying. It's about why you're saying it.
And when that becomes part of your daily habit, it changes you. You stop chasing perfection and start embracing reflection. You become more compassionate with yourself. You become your own friend in a language you once felt afraid of. That's healing. That's growth.
And when you keep showing up for yourself like that, even in small ways, writing a few lines, expressing something simple, or just being present with your thoughts, it builds a kind of emotional resilience. You're teaching yourself that your thoughts are valid, that your emotions matter, and that your journey in English doesn't need to look like anyone else's.
Totally. And the amazing part is, you don't need a perfect vocabulary to express something real. You don't need to use fancy grammar to say, I feel lonely, or I'm proud of myself today. What matters is that you're learning to listen to yourself and to respond with kindness, even in a second language.
Exactly. And what's even more powerful is that the more you write, the more you start to trust your voice, not just in English, but in your life. You realize you have opinions, feelings, stories, and ideas that are worth sharing. English just becomes another doorway to access them.
And that confidence starts to seep into other areas, too. Maybe you begin to speak a little more in class. Maybe you finally send that email in English. Maybe you comment on a YouTube video or join a group chat. It all starts from that quiet moment with your journal. That's where the transformation begins.
It's like planting seeds. Each small entry, even if it's just one sentence, grows over time. You don't see the full bloom overnight, but with patience, something beautiful develops. Your language grows, but so does your emotional strength, your clarity, your calm.
And even when you feel stuck, even on those days when you think, I don't know what to write, or I'm not improving, just the act of sitting down with your journal is a reminder, you're still trying. You haven't given up. That's something to be proud of.
Yes. Progress isn't always loud or visible. Sometimes it's just the quiet act of choosing to keep going, to keep learning, to keep feeling. English journaling gives you the space to do all of that without pressure, without anyone watching or judging. Just you, your thoughts, and your growth.
So if you've been feeling overwhelmed, stuck, or unsure about your English journey, maybe it's time to try something gentle, something just for you. Journaling in English doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be honest. And through that honesty, you'll grow, not only as a language learner but as a person, too.
Exactly. Whether you write one sentence or a whole page, you're making space for your voice. And that space matters. So, pick up a notebook, open a doc, or even record a voice note to yourself, just start. You might be surprised at what you discover, not just about English, but about you.
Thanks for joining us today. Remember, your progress isn't measured by perfect grammar or fancy words. It's measured by how gently you treat yourself and how bravely you keep going. Be kind to your mind and keep learning your way.
We'll catch you in the next episode. Until then, stay mindful, stay curious, and never forget, you're doing better than you think.
Bye for now, and happy journaling.